Hi guys, welcome back to my channel Mostly Programming. My name is Vivek Garg and this is lesson number 6 of learning Python scripting from scratch. In today's lesson, we are going to see what is type conversion. So, without any further ado, let's get into today's video. But before that, if you have not already subscribed to my channel, please do that right now because it's free. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss an update from Mostly Programming. So let's start. So in today's video, we are going to cover the following topics. What is type conversion? What are different types of type conversion? The type function, inbuilt functions used for type conversion. There are 3 functions. We are going to see that and some example script. So let us first see what is type conversion. In programming languages, type conversion or typecasting refers to changing an entity of one data type into another. I'm going to show you this on the PyCharm itself. We are going to write a small script for this. There are 2 types, implicit and explicit type conversion. Now let's go to PyCharm and let's see what actually it is. Suppose I'm writing a statement here, print 9 plus 7.5. So what I'm doing is basically 9 here is an integer and 7.5 here is a float. So I'm adding an integer into a float. And when I run it, you will see that 16.5 will be printed on the screen. Here I am converting an integer to a float and adding them together. It is being done implicitly, automatically by the Python itself, the interpreter itself. Okay, so I'm converting here the data type of this integer to float and then adding it. Right? Okay, let's see one more example here. Print 9 plus some string. When I'll run this, you will see 16.5 is printed on the screen. But we get an error for this. What error? Type error, integer and string. We can't add an integer to a string. Implicitly, this conversion cannot be made. So we must tell the interpreter to make this conversion explicitly. In the program, in the script itself, we have to use something to tell the interpreter to make this conversion. So we are going to see this. What are the different functions to explicitly convert it? Let's see. Okay. Before that, I want to show you the type function. We have already discussed it in the previous video itself, but I'm going to repeat this here as well. Suppose we are having here a variable a is equals to 5, b is equals to 5.67, and c is equals to a string a, b, c, d, e, f. So we have this. So now I'm going to print type function, type of what? A. Then I'm simply going to copy this with Control C. I'm going to paste it for like 2 times here. I'm just going to change the name of the variable here, B, and here I'm going to change it to C. So when I'm going to run this, you will see that here using type function, we get to know about the class, about the data type of the variable, the data type of the value stored in that variable. The first one here, A, stores an integer 5, so the class integer is printed here. B stores a float, so float is printed here. And C stores a string, so a str class is printed here. So the type function is very useful. Type function is used to know the class, the data type of a particular value that is stored in a variable. I hope type function is clear now. Now let's get back to the type conversion. As we wrote earlier, print 1 plus 4.5 and the answer would be 5.5. So what happens here is this integer is implicitly converted to a float. That means 1 gets converted to 1.0 and then added to 4.5, then the answer is 5.5. This conversion is implicit here. Similarly, if I'm writing here print SGH in double quotes obviously, plus any value, say float, you will see that first would be printed but the second would give us a type error because float cannot be added to a string. That means we have to, this conversion is not possible implicitly, that means we have to convert it explicitly. We have to use some function or some parameter to make this conversion. So let us see that now. We have three inbuilt functions: int function, float function, and str function. Right? These are the three inbuilt functions that are used for explicit type conversion. I'm going to show you how. So suppose here I have written print and inside it I have written integer 9.2 plus, hold on a second, 9. So what would be the answer of this? 18, because this 9.2 is explicitly, forcefully converted to an integer that would be 9 and 9 is added to 9. Right, so what this integer function do is converted whatever data is in it to an integer. Okay, so as you saw that this float is explicitly converted to an integer, let me show you this more clearly. Suppose I have a variable a and I'm storing the value 7.7 in it, and then I'm printing the type of that, print type of a. Okay, then what I'm doing here is I'm printing the same variable a, the type of the same variable a, but this time I'm using the int function here. So I'm explicitly converting that float to an integer. Then you will see the difference here. Yes, this line gives us a float only, right? Because a consists of the value 7.7, which is a float. But here what I did is I explicitly converted this 7.7 to an integer. That means 7. So here this particular, now the type becomes the integer type. What if I change it to float again? Not float, to string maybe. Okay, so what if I change it to a string? Str a. So you will see what happens. Yeah. So I converted it to an integer. Then I converted the same 7.7 to a string. Now it belongs to the class string. That means it is no longer a float. It is a string 7.7 in double quotes or single quotes or triple quotes. That means if I add, hold on a second, I'll have to give it to a variable first. So b is equal to str a. If I'm doing this, then if I add print b plus some random variable, you will see how the output differs. So here the output is not 7.7 plus this causing an error. Here the output is 7.7, which is a string now, is concatenated to another string which is GHHGDH, a random string I wrote. So that's how type conversion works. So if an implicit type conversion is not allowed, we have to explicitly convert it if it is the requirement. An integer is implicitly converted to a float, as we saw earlier in the video, but an integer cannot be implicitly converted to a string. We have to explicitly do it, and for that we use the string function or integer function or float function, whatever is required. Let's see one more thing here. What if I want to convert an integer into a float? What I would simply do is print float a. So in place of 7.0 is printed now, right? When I'll check the class of this, print type float a, then you're going to see float would be printed as the class of this particular value. because I have explicitly converted that integer to a float. What if I change it to a string? Then string would be printed here. str, it belongs to str class. So that's how implicit and explicit conversion works. And the three functions, the inbuilt functions: integer to convert anything into an integer, str, and float. What happens if I try to convert a string into it? Let's see. Print float, and in the parenthesis I'm going to write a. Let's see. It is causing me an error. Okay, because I'm using a wrong. Okay, so I wrote here print float and the character here. Let's see what happens. We cannot convert a string into a float. What if I write integer here? Let's see. That cannot be converted either, because we cannot convert a string into an integer or a float. There is a concept of ASCII values. We are going to discuss them later in the course itself. Do not get confused here. We are going to see how to convert it to ASCII values, but not now. Let's now concatenate some strings. I have a variable 6 plus variable 7.8 plus, in a variable I'm storing this value, I like you. Okay, so then I'm concatenating all these. I want to concatenate all these as strings. So what I'm going to do, string A plus string B plus C. Let's print it. So we are going to see 6, 7.8, I like you. So I converted the integer 6 explicitly to a string, 7.8 explicitly to a string, and added that to concatenate that to a C variable which has the value I like you, which is a string. So I concatenated these three strings together. Two were different data types, but I explicitly converted them here. So I hope this concept of type conversions is clear. Let's go through it again. Type conversion means converting one data type into another. There are two types, implicit and explicit type conversion. Implicit is when a data type is automatically converted to another. For example, an integer is automatically converted to a float when there is a requirement, but an integer cannot be automatically converted to a string. So what we have to do is we have to explicitly convert it. How we have to explicitly convert it? str7 plus d. Then here you will see 70 will be printed. An integer can be explicitly converted to a string. A float can be explicitly converted to a string, but the reverse is not true. A string cannot be explicitly converted into an integer or a float, because you can't add ABCD into a number like 5, 6, 7 or something like that. So the explicit conversion from a string is not possible into any other data type. So I hope the concept of type conversions is clear to you guys. If you have any queries, feel free to ask me in the comment section below. Or you can even DM me on my social media accounts. The link to those will be in the description itself. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Share with your friends. Also subscribe to my channel if you have not already subscribed. Thank you very much for watching.